Hey guys, welcome back to Bait and Tackle, and this is going to be part 2 of the silicone mold series. And what we're going to do in this video today is I'm going to go through and we're going to pour all of the silicone molds that I've made so far, and we're going to judge each one of them by different categories, and we'll get into that more in the video, so stay tuned. So here I've got all the molds laid out, pretty little maids in a row there. I'm warming up some white plastic, some white pearl plastic right now. It's recycled, and we're going to go ahead and pour these, every single one of them, and I'm going to show you what I've found and how the finish comes out on a lot of these molds. Now I've already started going down through, and the last part of the puzzle is to get all these poured so that we can score the last part of the scoring pattern that we're doing here. So bubbles, what I mean by bubbles is when I pour the plastic into these molds, which ones produce any air, like I think it's the liquid hot plastic against this type of silicone. One of these, I know this one already does it because I poured it before, and I believe this one does it too. So we're going to rate them all, and we're going to rate them all based on how the mixing part goes, mixing the actual silicone, how hard it is. The other thing we're going to look at is the pourability, so how the silicone pours in to make the molds. And then we're going to look at the last one when we do a finished product of the actual soft plastic bait to see what it comes out like. So there's 4 categories. We're going to check them all out. Okay, so I'm going to try to get all of these around the same temperature, same everything. So this is about 330 degree plastic. It's been vacuumed, so I know all the air bubbles are out of the plastic. It just came out of the pot. So we're going to go ahead, and I don't know if I have enough plastic here to do every single one of these molds. So we're just going to do our best to see how many we can do here. And I don't want the plastic to get too cold either, so we got to just stay on top of the heat. Okay, so there's one of the mold maker. Here's 2 of the mold makers. Now we're on to the umu. Now I've done some in the umu already, and I've done some mold maker already. So I know that I've had issues with the mold maker, and I'm going to see if I can show you what issues I was having with the mold maker. The umu works pretty well. The finish comes out great. It's the mold maker that I have had issues with so far. I don't know if I'm going to have enough to do this one or not, but this is the last umu mold. You can already tell the plastic's starting to thicken up on me. Don't think this one's going to make it. It's too thick. Too thick, and the tail didn't fill in all the way. But that's okay. Like I said, this is an experiment type thing. So we got 5 out of 1 cup of plastic. We're going to go ahead and heat up some more plastic and do the rest of them. Okay, so we are ready to do a little bit more pouring. I've got some more in the cup here. It's about 330. It's actually a little warm. I'm actually going to put on a glove to pour this. That glass is really hot. I'm going to try to pour these. I took the last one out. We're just going to go ahead and fill that one out, because I will use these baits regardless of how they come out. But so far we've already seen that the mold maker, it creates some chaos. So these umus come out with a very good finish. I've done these already before. I've actually made baits in these molds already. So there's those. Now we're going to do the BB Dynos. And then I think we might we're going to do the mold maxes last. And I've got some more plastic in the microwave heating up. So I'm kind of juggling between two different Pyrex cups full of plastic. There's that tail filled in real well. The bait filled in real well. Actually, it went over. So I'm going to leave that alone. I did too much in that one. So as far as like pouring hot plastic into these go, the mold maker and this BB Dyno are fantastic. The silicone themselves. But for whatever reason, something in the silicone creates air bubbles. I don't know why. Some kind of a reaction. So there's that one. And I've done the BB Dyno as well already, and it does the same thing. So I think I've got enough here. I'm not going to push it. But I've got more in the microwave right now that I'm going to bring out, stir up, make sure, see where we're at. And we might be able to pour this. No, not quite yet. Still pretty solid. So we'll heat the rest of this up. We're going to be juggling between two cups and finish this up. Alright, so I've got some plastic heated up again. It's the third time. And this should be, hopefully, I don't know if this is going to be enough to fill these up or what, but now I am pouring the Mold Max 30. I had a lot of fun pouring those ones specifically. It was a little bit more challenging because those are mixed by weight when you pour the silicone to make the molds, not by just volume 50-50, which is what most of these are. This is a 50-50 mix, this is a 50-50 mix, this is a 50-50 mix. The Mold Max is a 100 parts to 10 parts by weight, so I had to measure it out in grams, which is pretty cool. So a little bit different. I had to do a little bit of converting there. But, and I will also mention that I had a tough time with air catching around the eyeball, the bottom of the eye specifically. And I found that this, and that may have just been me doing it, but I found that if I took some of the silicone ahead of time before I poured the mold itself and put it into those eyeball cavities on the resin copy, that it seemed to help alleviate getting rid of those bubbles. So that worked out really well. I don't know if I have enough to do this last one. I think I'm gonna wait and I've got another one right now in the microwave heating up. And I'd say that it's kind of close, but I think it needs a little bit more time. It says 335, but there's still some solid pieces in there. So let me just nuke this for like 30 more seconds or less, and then we can pour the last one. But yeah, so what I was saying was, when I poured this silicone, I had to use a little wooden spatula here, a little wooden stick, to actually put some of the silicone in the eyeballs on the resin copy. So then that way it wouldn't get caught. And I'll show you what I mean. When I took the resin copy, air would get trapped right here on the bottom of this eye socket. So whenever I'd pour, I'd get a little bubble in the eye cavity when I actually made the bait in these ones. And I think it's in these Umus too. But I alleviated that by putting some in here, and I think these ones are going to come out perfect now because I actually put some silicone in there before I started pouring. That seems to hopefully alleviate that pain. So here's this last one, and I'm just going to go ahead and pour it since I know this plastic's super hot and we got plenty of it. This is the last one we're going to do. And we're going to let these cool down and set up, and then I will try to show you what, if all, issues we have any. It's going to be very tough to see on camera. But you're going to have to take my word for it on some of this, because some of these are very, very tough to see on camera. And I will keep these baits. All these baits I'll use, or give them to a couple of my friends to try. So obviously pouring them in the molds, not a problem. That's all by hand. That's all that's all on me anyway. But so far, cleanest bait to come out of the molds are these. And I'm not sure about these yet because it's the first time pouring these, so we're going to find that out at the end. These seem to create air bubbles on the tops of these pockets right here, so that is an issue that I'm trying to alleviate. I have taken my torch and just knocked down some air bubbles on some of these, and sometimes you'll still get them on the umus and stuff like that, but these ones in particular have a lot more air issues. I don't know why. Something in the silicone. But I also will say that when we mix these silicones, it was a lot easier. It was more watery. These ones were a lot thicker when you poured the silicone themselves, the Umu and the mold packs. Both from the same company. That's both Smooth On. This is BB Dyno from Amazon. This is Alumilite that I got from Michaels. Or you can get that online too. You can get that on Amazon, I'm sure. So I'm just gonna dump this other hot plastic into this other one, so then that way I've got 1 cup instead of 2, but I'll probably let it cool down. So we'll come back after these cool down, and we're gonna talk about which ones do the best, and we'll take them out of the molds, kind of look at them, and I'll let you know what I think. But I think so far, what I already know, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess that this is probably number 2, and this is probably the number 1 silicone you probably want to use for pouring hot plastics. So let's come back and take a look. Okay, so let's talk about Mold Maker. I gave it 3 categories. We're going to talk about mixability, pourability, and air bubbles. I gave it a 6 for mixability. This mixes really well as far as the silicone goes, and it pours very easy, very smooth. Okay, it's not thick, so I gave it a 6. Pourability, I'm sorry, that was just mixing it. Mixing I gave 6 out of 10 because it was pretty easy to mix, but it was still a little firm to mix. It was a little tough, but pouring was a lot better when you poured the mold itself. So that I gave a 7 out of 10. Air bubbles, I'm giving it a 4 out of 10 because every time I pour these, I get not massive, but I get a lot of small air bubbles up here. And then here's the worst part of it. You guys probably can't see that on the finish. I can try to get that for you. But can you see all those little air pockets, those little valleys? But I'm getting them all over the sides of the baits. So when you pour these, somehow air gets trapped on the sides where it meets the silicone, and then it ends up creating these little valleys on the side. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, so let me see if I can focus you in. It's going to be really tough to see, but I get a lot of like air pockets. See right there on that glare right there, you can notice them. See them, all those little air pockets? That's what I'm talking about. So that is my only issue. That is the real problem with these molds, is the air pockets on the actual bait walls themselves. That's my biggest issue with those. So that's going to conclude Mold Maker. So for a grand total out of 30, we're going to give it 17 out of 30. Which isn't the greatest, but there's a reason. So we're going to set that off to the side, and we're going to get the next one. Okay, the next one we're going to talk about is Umu. This one was significantly, it was harder to mix, so I gave it a 4 out of 10. It was very difficult to mix. Pourability, I gave it a 6 because it was very thick. It was tough to pour in there. And as far as the finish goes on the bait, very minimal air pockets up top, very minimal air bubbles, and I got to be honest, the finish on this one, and I don't know if you can really see it or not, but see how shiny the bait is on the side, but no air pockets like what we got with the Mold Maker. So that one did very well, a lot better than the other one, so I'm going to give it a 19 out of 30. Okay, so that's coming in at number 2 right now. So let's go ahead and get the next one. Okay, so BB Dyno. Unfortunately, this is the same crap as the Mold Maker. So let me get the piece of paper out here for BB Dyno. Same thing. I had issues. The mixability was fantastic. This was so easy to mix up. It was great. It mixed up, it was really thin, very easy to mix up with a stirring stick, and pourability was fantastic too because of how thin it was. It was so easy to pour around the bait. No issues around the eye cavities at all, unlike what I had with Umu, and I forgot to mention that in the Mold Maker, was that I had some issues with one of the eye cavities getting air bubbles in it. But the air bubbles, not a big deal. You can cut that little piece out. It's not a big deal. But this definitely did pourability a lot cleaner. Air bubbles. I think this did worse than the Mold Maker. The amount of air bubbles on the side of this bait right here is unbelievable. It's got them just everywhere. The finish is not super smooth. It's got a lot of these little air bubbles. I'm not really too thrilled with it. I can even see some around the tip of the bait. And the amount of air bubbles up top is redonkulous. I mean, they're terrible. I can see all these popped air bubbles on the top. Again, I'm not going to show you guys too much. It's really kind of hard to see that issue. And I will take some pictures of it. Hopefully I can get them to turn out on my phone and put them on the end of this video. But I'm going to give BB Dyno, for the bubbles wise, we're going to give that, I'm going to hate to do this, but I'm going to have to do it like a 2 out of 10. Because it was terrible. So that really got 20 out of 10 or 20 out of 30 just because of the pourability of the silicone and the mixability of the silicone. It was very easy, very awesome to do that part. So that came out pretty well. So that right now actually has the highest score, but with the finish being so bad, and actually probably what I should do is probably change that down to like 8 and 8. Like that was good, but not perfect. So that actually, let's go ahead and redo that one to 18 because it really isn't as good as the Umu. The Umu pours a bait much, much better. So right now we got the Mold Maker in last, the BB Dyno in second, and the Umu in third. Let's see if the Mold Max does any better. You guys are gonna be weird when I tell you this, and this is all my own opinion. This is in my research. This is not, you don't have to take my word for this. You could try it yourself if you really wanted to. But what I've found with the Mold Max 30, and this is very interesting, it was with bigger baits. Now I know I have some of this silicone from Slim's Lures, and he helped me out trying to, he told me to try this. And the one thing is that I have a ton of his molds, and they're done in this Mold Max 30, and they come out fantastic. No air bubbles, no issues, no nothing. But it must be because of the amount of plastic, soft plastic I'm using in these molds, where it has some kind of an issue with air bubbles. I am getting the same thing, the air bubbles down the side, all over, and this one's actually worse than the BB Dyno and the Mold Maker. So that's really bad. So I'm gonna have to give this one a 2 out of 10 for the air bubbles. The pourability and how nice these molds come out, I gave it a 5 for mixing because it was very thick. It was a little bit different to mix. Actually, I can come up on that. That's probably, let's give the mixing a 7 because that wasn't as bad as the Umu was really tough to mix. Okay, but we'll give that a 7 for mixability. It was a little bit better than I'd say it was better than the mold maker, but not as easy to mix as the BB Dyno. But the pourability was a little bit thicker, so it was kind of like the mold maker. It was very similar. So I'm going to say that's a 7 out of 10. Okay, so we're lined up pretty good here. So we're going to do 7, 7, and 2. That gives us a total of 16 out of 10, out of 30. Out of 10. I wanted to do it out of 10. That's funny. Be able to do math, huh? Should be able to do math. So I'm actually very surprised. I thought that these were going to do the best, but the finish is, and it's not a bad thing. Like the little air bubbles down the side, it actually kind of gives like a little bit of a scale pattern, but it does it everywhere on the bait. So it's on the tip a little bit, it's on the eyes, it's all the way down the body. So I'm very surprised by that, and I made sure that this plastic was vacuum chambered very well. So I'm a little bit surprised. I think the Umu is the ultimate winner. Such a smooth body. No issues as far as any of those air bubbles down the side like I thought there was going to be. It came out the best. So right now Umu is in the first place running. I do have one more silicone to try, and I'm not going to try it in this video, but I do have Mold Max 40, I believe, and I'm gonna have to do some research on these a little bit more before I do another video on these. But as far as today goes, I'm going to say that Umu takes the cake on swim bait type silicone molds, open pore silicone molds. I was really hoping that the Umu or the Mold Max 30 was going to take it, but it's not quite there. All right, so just to do a quick overview right now, I'm going to say that and I hate to say this, but the Mold Max 30 is in last place with 16. The Mold Maker is actually in second to last place with 17 out of 30. And the BB Dyno comes in third to last with 18 out of 30. And Umu, surprisingly, is the winner. Now, I've had really good luck with the Umu so far, and that's what I originally started pouring, and it's been fantastic. But the air bubbles are my concern. So these ones, a little bit light on the top, that's why I gave it a 9. Really, it probably should be a 10 out of 10 because the bait is perfect on the sides. But the amount of air bubbles in the Mold Max 30 surprised the heck out of me. But as far as durability goes, Umu and the Mold Max 30, both made by Smooth On, great products. They really stand up to, I hit it a lot with my butane torch, heat guns. These stand up to a lot of stress. Now the only thing I can say about Umu is I have seen it rip before. I've had some, I believe it's Stank X baits. I think that's right. I've had a couple of those, and those have ripped a little bit over time, just debuse and the wear and tear, which is not a big deal, but you know, that's kind of something. These I have not had rip yet. This is a little bit heavier duty, I think, of a silicone. This is a little softer, this is a little firmer, and all the molds that I have by Slim are fantastic molds. They are great. I'm not saying not to buy those. His baits are a lot smaller, so I think that has a lot to do with it. So the smaller baits with these is perfect. And if I do a smaller bait, which I'm actually working on a smaller bait, I'm probably going to end up doing it in this Mold Max 30 because of the durability of the silicone. So fantastic product. This is a fantastic product. I really wouldn't recommend the BB Dyno from Amazon. That's just cheap. If you need something to get by and just do something with, you can use that. It's easy to mix, but you're going to get some air bubbles. That's a problem with that one. And then Mold Maker, I wouldn't really use Mold Maker too much. It feels a little softer. These are both soft silicones. I don't know how wear and tear is going to be. They come out nice looking, but I would say that these two are definitely out. I would stick with the Smooth On products, the Umu and the Mold Max 30, but definitely the Umu if you're looking to pour a big silicone open pore swim bait type bait or a bigger bait that's got a bigger profile. I think Umu is the way to go. If you want to do a smaller profile, Mold Max 30. Well, that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that video. Like I said, this is part 2 of a 3-part series. Next episode, we will get into heat and how that applies to these different types of silicones, and we'll just see how these silicones react with a heat gun. And I've got a new heat gun that we're going to use on these. Probably crank it up to like 1,000 degrees. I want to see what kind of heat tolerances each one of these silicone molds has. So we're going to kind of take what we did in this video and just amp it up one more step. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, remember to keep on baiting.